presidential nominees squaring off to make their case to the American people. What must they say to sway those undecided voters? I want to bring in Steve Forbes right now, Forbes Media Chairman. Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you, Maria.
What are your expectations tonight?
I think Donald Trump is going to try to come across as the optimistic candidate, getting the country in the right direction, and not fall into the trap of trying to beat her at a quiz like you're in a school. People don't want details so much as they want a sense of direction. If he comes across as optimistic, in command, she comes across as a bureaucrat spewing statistics, I think he'll win. Even
though his entire campaign has been what's wrong, you know, he wants to make America great again, you think he's going to be optimistic about the backdrop or optimistic about where we're going, obviously?
He'll make the case that she's third term, that the country's not in the right direction. 80% of the American people would agree with that. But I think he's also going to hit on his tax plans. So she'll try to say, oh, it'll increase the deficit. He'll say government's supposed to serve the people, not the other way around. Come a little more John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan. He does that. She's going to come across as a dour. He wins.
Do you think that TPP and trade deals are going to become a big talking point? I mean, his tax plan is great. I think a lot of people are coalescing around it, especially business leaders, because it does help address one of the biggest things we do need to fix, which is business taxes to get the economy going again. But I keep seeing time and time again people talk about tariffs on China, trade deals. It seems like he's attacking crony capitalism, but do you think this is going to be a big contentious point tonight?
Well, that's the thing on trade. She's taken that issue off the table, amazingly, because she came out against her own gold standard trade deal. And so she's not going to be able to say, oh, you can't do this. If it had been a candidate, a free trader, the free trader candidate could have said, you're proposing a 45% sales tax at Walmart. How is this going to help the American economy? So that issue's off the table, but it's a very real concern to markets, very real concern to people like me in the economy. If you get in a trade war, that's a bad thing.
The Clinton campaign and her advisors are already trying to set this up as something that's going to be sexist, that he's going to go after her and her appearance, and every potential insult or barb is because she's a woman. And I wonder how you handle that, because I said early on that because Trump basically has a take no prisoners approach about going after people, that gives him more wiggle room in terms of really attacking her and not looking like it's because she's a woman.
For her to portray herself as the maiden in distress is not going to work. People know her too well. She's been too badly bruised in terms of these emails and other scandals. So that's not going to work. It worked in 2000 when her opponent, Rick Lazio, went over in the debate and handed her that letter.
She played to it, too. She was backing away from him as if he was a threat to her, and she won the Senate.
Right. But that was 15, 16 years ago. This is different now. Trump will come across as a leader, and if she's going to play, oh, you're hurting me, you're going to stand up to Putin, you're going to stand up to the Chinese, not going to work.
You know, it's really true, because even when she did the Between the Ferns segment with Zach, he asked her something about a pantsuit, and she said, well, there's this thing called a double standard. She does keep going back to the woman thing. You're right.
Even though they try to embrace the gender and say and basically get people to feel sympathetic toward her, but then she uses it also, I say she uses it as a crutch that she then swats people with.
Yeah. And then there's the whole taunting idea, right? Donald Trump and billionaire Mark Cuban's recent war of words escalated after Cuban tweeted last week that he will attend tonight's debate. Eric Trump and RNC Chairman Reince Priebus also weighed in. I spoke with them this weekend. Watch this.
I have my Trump hedge on. In the event Donald wins, I have no doubt in my mind the market tanks.
Mark is not, I really believe, not smart enough to understand what's going on. He's a mixed-up guy. Explain to Mark we have $20 trillion in debt.
A couple months ago, he was saying my father was the greatest thing that's ever happened to politics. We were using his stadiums, and he's over here, then he's back. Listen, I don't know what to make of him, and you know, who knows? It's not going to affect my father at all. You know, in fact, my father is going to have a lot of working-class Americans at the debate.
This Mark Cuban play, I think, was over the top by the Hillary Clinton campaign. That wasn't just by accident. And look, you know, you hit Donald Trump, and sometimes he counterpunches, even if it's for a laugh.
So Reince Priebus was referring to a tweet from Donald Trump over the weekend that he might invite Jennifer Flowers, who had an affair with Bill Clinton, to the debate. The campaign did not invite her. Steve, Could Clinton's campaign having Mark Cuban in the audience to intimidate Donald Trump backfire? And I just want to point out that my sources tell me that there's not going to be any of this in the front row, that it's actually against debate rules. So Mark Cuban will not be in the front row. Certainly he's not going to be in the camera shot, behind the candidates. And Jennifer Flowers is not going, which is what we heard from the Trump. But could this backfire?
Yes, and it's so transparent. Oh, if we get Donald rattled, he'll go off, and that'll show he doesn't have the temperament to be president. And his response was perfect. And so it just showed how ridiculous the whole thing is. And so the Clinton campaign, they have resources, but they don't know how to bring him down.
Yeah.
And that's what they find frustrating. And his Republican opponents never figured out how to bring him down.
So, one of the things I think is going to be really interesting to watch tonight, everybody's saying Hillary's going to be so prepared, have so many details, and be so wonkish. On the other hand, we've seen her strategy is just to bait Donald Trump into, trying to get him to have a temper tantrum or do something that's going to make him seem,
having detail is not going to work. It's the sense of direction. Do you want to go where you've been for the last 8 years? Look what's happening in terms of terrorism. We want more of that.
But doesn't he need more detail than what we saw in the primary debates?
He'll be able to say, I've got a tax proposal out there. Here are my proposals on 15% corporate tax, this tax, that tax. Go online if you want more detail. I wanted to have you know that we're going to get this country going in the right direction. So she's not going to be able to trip him on detail. People aren't interested in detail. They're interested in the sense of direction. They know he's bringing in a team around him on the economic side. So that takes the issue away. And so if she tries to hit the temperament issue, having telegraphed with that Mark Cuban thing, not going to work.
Yeah. What is Hillary Clinton's economic plan beyond raising taxes for the highest earners, Jagan?
It's raising taxes and spending money and spending money. It's the
infrastructure.
It's the paid family leave. She's paying for that. It's more infrastructure spending, which Donald Trump, I know that bothers you, is doubled what Hillary Clinton wants to spend on infrastructure. It's a lot of spending programs.
Right. Yeah. So
he can say, she wants to raise taxes. I want to cut your taxes. Game over.
Yeah, yeah. Steve, great analysis from you as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Forbes joining us there. Fox